Hello, future bestsellers. We are super, super excited to see you all today. I was telling Robert, I did an event last night for the Sarasota Libraries off the page at Ringling College, which is an incredible arts college. If you guys are not familiar, they're just blow you away with like what the graduates are doing over there. It's just incredible. So, and they partnered with the library, and the library did this big event with like Janet Ivanovich and Amy Tan and yours truly. So I feel very privileged. I'm very excited about it. It was really fun. We were talking backstage as everybody sort of filters in. Hi, everybody. Welcome to see you this morning. We were talking a little bit about your project that you've been working on before we came up. And so you were saying you had an editing break that you didn't anticipate. And so you're filling that with art. Can we see some?
Yeah, I've got a couple of prints here. I'm going to get a couple more before I make them available. So if anybody's interested in classic comic book character covers, this is one I did. This was an art commission I recently finished for.
Hold on, I'm making you big. There you go.
Ooh,
I love that.
These were his specifications. That's Dr. Fade. I don't know if you know who he is. He's like a classic Doctor Strange. He came before Doctor Strange. And the villain is called Kulak, another wizard that I made look like Bela Lugosi.
I love that. That is incredible. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That would be such a good gift for for somebody like my son who loves those classic, or Mike, he loves them too. Oh my God, I love that.
This is the original Dr. Midnight, another classic character. I don't know if you're familiar with some of these characters, but if you watch the Stargirl show, he was on that.
So that's awesome. Love that. That is so cool. All right, back to both of us. Hold on. Oh, if I can figure it out, which of course I cannot. There we go. Okay. I think that is so awesome. And I find that if I ever feel stuck in my writing, that being creative in some other area, I mean, I don't draw, but I do, I'm crafty. I'll do that kind of stuff or whatever. Just being creative in some other area, really kind of juices you up for everything else. Yeah,
it does. And usually I have a balance between the two, but since I've been busy with other things, with my father being ill and everything, I've mainly worked on the drawing over the past week, and sometimes that kind of just flows a little bit easier. Plus I do want to get a couple more prints done, so if you have comic book fans that's on your Christmas list, or you'd like it yourself, watch my social media, because I'm going to by the end of the month.
I will be doing that for sure, because my kiddo is a big fan. Okay, let's say hi to our friends in the chat. Look who's here. Robert was first. I have library hangover this morning, so I was so I was kind of like, oh, is that the time already? So anyway, so there we go. Story Detective, so glad you're here as always. We did not do our intros. Let's say hi, everybody. Then we'll tell people who we are who don't know, and then we'll go on with our very first warm-up sprint. Avi's here. Yay, that's fantastic. As you guys might notice, I'm wearing, well, I don't match, but I'm wearing a giant sweater today. And seconds before the live stream started, I got a ship delivery of a heater, an under my desk heater, because it's freaking freezing in Florida. It's so cold. It was colder here yesterday than it was in Denver. Cold.
So also sweater, because we had snow flurries this morning. I got up and my car had a dusting of snow on it. I'm like, oh crap.
That's crazy. We had ice on our windows in Florida this morning. I was like, well, I left my ice scraper back in Denver about 30 years ago. So, I mean, it wasn't much. It went away pretty quickly, but I was like, how is this happening? All right. For those of you about to write global warming in the chat, yes. Hello, Elizabeth. We are super, super glad to see you today. So glad to see you. Avi says, happy hump day. Hope everybody's writing is going great. I hope that too. Free range females here. Hello. Super glad to see you. Cool Gamers here. Hello. Free Range Chemo says, Robert, you are so talented. That is true. We are very lucky. Very,
I
very
spent
lucky.
a good number of years working for Marvel, DC, and pretty much all the companies out there. So I do have a little bit of an experience in this.
just a skosh. Like, I remember when we first started this stream, like, you almost never talked about the Marvel part of it, which is like that's such a huge accomplishment, like all you have done in comic world, and why you're such a, I mean, really big part of it, I think, why you're such a great storyteller, although I certainly think a lot of it comes to you naturally. But like, that's such a big deal. That's like the dream for so many people.
For a while, I was kind of divorced from the industry. As some of you know, and some of you don't, I had an accident, so I couldn't really keep up with those kind of deadlines because you're working on over a drawing board for like 15 hours a day minimum to meet those things, and I just couldn't do it. There were things that just went down that I just stepped away from it mentally and physically. But over the past year, I think about a year and a half, I've come back to drawing, and I'm enjoying it a lot again. So it's helping to balance my writing a little bit and give it that other form of storytelling, which did help me because I learned, from guys who taught sequential art, which is comic books and storyboards, and how it's very cinematic and a lot of the same rules, and some that even writers don't know about that I wish they did. That'll be in my book.
I know, right? We will, thankfully, that book is coming out soonish. Yeah. Right? I'm super excited about that. Avi says, if I'm not writing, I'm doing something creative, drawing, painting, graphics, composing lyrics. My favorite thing to do is create avatar characters and floor plans for my settings. I love that.
That's really cool.
That is super awesome. Avi also says, awesome comics.
Thank you.
Tina's here. So great to see you today. All right. So now that we've been talking for 8 minutes, let's go ahead and do our intros really fast. And then we will get to our very first writing sprint. Story Detective, tell us a little about you and your awesome channel.
Well, my channel is The Story Detective, where I take those various forms of storytelling that we've been talking about and place them under a Sherlockian lens and break down the craft for the viewer. And I do separate the facts from the fiction in fiction writing, and there's a lot of interesting talk there. So new videos are planned. I just, with everything going on, haven't had a chance to film them, but there will be another season coming of Story Detective in the hopefully not too distant.
Yay! Wait, hold on. Another season coming. We're super excited about that. I'm super, super glad about that. Okay, so I am Visa Daily, if you guys don't already know me, but judging from the comments, we already do. And I write both nonfiction and romantic comedy, contemporary romance. And any word from Michelle, is she okay? Avi wants to know, is she okay? Hope she's doing well. Michelle has, for another couple of weeks, a client who's in a different country, and this is the only time that they can meet. So we've lost her for a few weeks. She'll be back. So as soon as her project is done, she will be. It's challenging sometimes if you're working with someone who's across the world. There are like apps where you can like line up the best times for a meeting, but I have a podcast interview that I'm doing. I think it's next week. I have to look at my calendar. I think it's next week, although it might be this week. And we were having a challenge because I think she's either in Australia or New Zealand. I can't remember. But we were having a challenge because we were trying to schedule the podcast at a time that was going to work for both of us. But then also we had the time change like in the middle of when we were trying to schedule it. And I don't think they daylight savings time. I could be mistaken, but it created like all these additional like problems. So
yeah, daylight savings time is always a pain in the butt. You get used to one schedule and then all of a sudden you're slightly off.
I make my own schedule and it still messes me up every single time. It takes me like 2 weeks to get over it. It sucks. So Michelle is okay. She is alive and well and working with a freelance client, and she'll be back with us soon. But she's got this conflict that can't be overcome right now. So let's go ahead and do our first 5-minute warm-up sprint so we can get ready. When we come back, we'll talk about what we are going to be working on today. Here we go. 5 minutes up on the clock.
Rating done, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. All right, here we go. Okay, everybody, 5 minutes up on the clock, and go ahead and get your documents out, get yourself a nice drink, and we will be back in just a few to have a little more chit chat. See you soon. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's open those documents. All right, we are back. How did everybody do on that very first sprint? Let us know. So, what are you going to be working on today, Robert?
I'm still working on the novella I started in October since I didn't get to work on it over this past week. But I am pleased with the progress, and last week I got a couple of chapters done, so I'm anxious to continue.
Very nice. Very nice. I am going to be working on my nonfiction romance writing book a little bit. I am actually like super energized about it because that's what my talk was about last night, was basically how to structure a romance book. And as part of the event, Ringling asked me to come in and evaluate like back of the book blurbs for students because they have a romance writing class at Ringling College, which is, I think, the coolest thing ever. And those kids are coming for us, man. They are phenomenal. I was really blown away by how
Nice.
good yeah, they know what they're doing. So I was really blown away by how good they were. So I'm kind of like all excited, and you know how it is like when you talk to a group of people, especially one that's like really excited and has a bunch of questions. So I am just like on fire to get this book like
Mhm.
finished. So that's kind of exciting. How about you? You're working on the short story today. How about you guys in the blah, 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 in the chat? Sorry, I really do have speaker brain today. Um, what are you guys working on? Let us know. Elizabeth's doing joy sprints, writing whatever just for the heck of it to try to tap back into the joy of writing. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah.
yeah. So one of the things that I have been thinking about a lot lately is burnout because I'm trying very hard to avoid burnout. And I had it pretty bad, as a lot of you guys know, in 2020 during COVID. And one of the things was something I did that Elizabeth actually participated in, to try to sort of get that joy of creating back. Was we did this romance trope song where like 20 of my favorite romance authors all sung a little everybody sang a little piece and recorded a little video, and it was just like super super fun. But it was like one of those things that kind of kick started it back. So I love the idea of joy sprints. I think that's just amazing. Alexis is like, yes, that is fantastic. Mary's here. Hello. Love, love, love that. Free range female working on a series of short romances. I'm hoping a few novelettes can help me raise money for publishing costs of the novel I've labored over for 2.5 years. You might also think about Kickstarter. You know,
Yeah.
you can get some support there, and there's Russell Nolte, is that his last name? And Monica Leonel. I can never remember their last names because I mostly just remember them as Russell and Monica, because for a very long time they were always together, even though they have their own creative pursuits. And and so but they wrote a really great book about Kickstarters for authors. And I know Lainey Davis, our own Lainey Davis, who's here regularly, has just done pretty well with those. So just think about that. That might be another good way to help you raise money for publishing costs.
Yeah, it's a
There
whole
you
other
go.
audience. It helps you to learn, I think, a little bit in marketing your book. And I've known some people from like the comic industry that really are pretty bad at marketing, but they got their books funded, just by getting out there and, telling them what they plan to work on. If it's interesting, people will come.
People will, yeah. I considered Kickstarter. My friends frown on it, but I'm not sure why. Really, the main thing is that you have to just deliver what you're promising. But yeah, I'm kind of interested to know why your friends are not on board with Kickstarter. I'm kind of fascinated by that. If you feel like sharing, I'd love to hear it. If not, like totally understand that too.
Yeah, there's a
Let's
lot of advice from social media, and people get all kinds of biases. Definitely check it out for yourself. Look at that book by the
by
couple that
Russell.
Lisa
Yeah.
mentioned, because there's a lot of possibilities there, and you really have to look for yourself, because friends sometimes have well intentions, and sometimes it's good advice. Sometimes it may not be for them, but it might be for you.
Right. You never know. You absolutely never know until you kind of look and see. But I don't like it doesn't harm you in any way. There are plenty of books that started on Kickstarter that have been traditionally published, indie public. I mean, it kind of depends on what your goals are. You start right away with building, even if it's a small audience, an engaged audience. So it's and it's a good way to kind of get your name and your book out there. Avi drafting new notes for vampire K-pop romance, which I'm so excited about. Outline change. But since I'm drafting in November, not editing, I can't start over. First draft will be messy. I feel that.
Mhm.
Feel
Yeah,
that.
it often
Ooh.
is.
So Mary has a great question, and I want to talk about this when we come back from our first writing sprint. Since we are 20 minutes in, we haven't started writing yet. So I love this question, and we will talk about it when we come back. Here we go. Hold on one second. All right, let's do a sprint, shall we? Let us know if you haven't already what you're going to be working on today. There's our thing. All right. All right, here we go. Okay, we got 20 minutes up on the clock. Let's get those little fingers all stretched out and ready to go. Here we go, everybody. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. All right, we are back. How did everybody do on our very first sprint of the day? Robert, how'd you do?
I did pretty good. Spent most of the time working on this one character's voice. I want him to be a little more intelligent and distinct.
I that opens up so many possibilities for a comeback, and I'm just going to let that one fly by. So, I love that. I absolutely love that. Good. Okay, good. I also was very productive on that first sprint. It went by very quickly, which I always love. So I did post the trope song. If you guys have not heard this before, it's very fun. It was just it's to the can that song. And I wrote it as a way to like I said, to sort of do something fun creatively, but like so many I have this great group that that I haven't seen for a while because I've had a client conflict for a while, but at this great group of writers called the RAM Romcom group, and they were all like, "We'll do it," and so it just became this thing for a bunch of us, and everybody was so creative and fun, and it was just like super awesome. Okay, so let's talk about Mary's question, and Free Range Female had some Kickstarter thoughts about it. So Mary says, for fundraising, what about Substack? I know it's come up before. My hubby's thinking about doing it like instead of his newsletter, but I'm not crazy about the idea. So, so I love Substack for many reasons. First, it's free, so you're not paying for, based on the number of subscribers you have. And it's essentially a newsletter that gets sent out to your people like a newsletter, but it's also a blog, and they can comment below, and it's really set up for sharing. And the other great thing about Substack is that you can have both free and paid subscribers that you give different information to, or sometimes you have maybe some posts are free for people who are on the free plan, and then some posts are only for subscribers. So all of that about Substack is fantastic. The reason that I have not recommended that Dave switch over entirely, and you could do like a 2-tier thing, but the reason I haven't recommended that he switch over entirely is that you can't do email funnels on Substack at this point, which means that if you're doing like if you have like a welcome series when people join your email list as a subscriber, or maybe they download your reader magnet, they get a free book. On Dave's current situation on MailerLite, what happens is they get the free book, but they also get like 5 or 6 of Dave's most compelling cop stories, which is what his newsletter is about a lot of his experiences on the force, because he writes police procedurals. And so it's a really good, and he's a great storyteller, and he's seen some crazy crap in his many years in the various jobs that he held in law enforcement. So for Dave specifically, I would say if you want to do that, that's a great, like, it's a great thing to test out, but we'd have to do some sort of hybrid where we're doing like maybe a Zap or something else to bring those subscribers from his MailerLite list onto his Substack, but that you still have something like MailerLite to handle your new readers and your various email funnels. Like for me, I have so many different kind of funnels just because of the YouTube channel, and like I have all these different, like I have the romance fans who are like my book fans, but I also have like folks who came from the YouTube channel who are really more interested in nonfiction writing advice. And so for me, it would be really, I would have to do the same thing, but it would be really extensive and I would not like it. Okay. So, this is interesting. So he's thinking about doing a chapter at a time about his mom, kind of like how 50 Shades and The Martian got started. So that's kind of a different thing. It almost feels like how Lainey Davis has her audiobooks like broken up on, or has her audiobooks on YouTube, and instead of someone like buying the audiobook, they're listening to it, but it's ad supported, so she's still being paid for that, which is kind of a cool topic. I never really thought about doing a book that way, unless it's like a collection of essays, maybe. I don't know. There's something interesting. Do you have thoughts on this, Robert?
That all sounds pretty good. I mean, I've been thinking, in terms of my own projects, once I get to the point of, publicizing things a little bit more, where exactly to go myself. There are so many groups out there, and yet some of them that I've tried and through trial and error, looking for places that might be supportive. And also the fact that my YouTube channel was about teaching craft. And there was a particular Facebook group that I joined that had a lot of members who shall remain nameless. But I started writing like articles like that, like you're talking about for Substack. And people actually started giving me a hard time about reading it because the article was obviously too long and they wanted to read like sound bites. And I said, well, that's kind of interesting that writers don't want to read, and they all kind of attacked me. So I left the group and I'm like, why are people fighting against their own best interest? It makes absolutely no sense, but that's the world we tend to live in.
That is the world we live in. People fighting against their own best interest.
I'm like, where do you go?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think one thing that's a real benefit of Substack is that it does offer sort of a built-in way for you to grow your newsletter subscribers, meaning like Substack will say, oh, if you like Seth's email, you like Seth's Substack, you'll also like Robert's Substack. And so that aspect of it, and also the social aspect of people being able to comment and have conversations on the piece, which feels again like a blog post or like a Facebook post. I think that sort of but it still comes to your email box, so you don't have to, go to Facebook. Like there are some really great things about Substack. And I think, and I know a lot of people have done pretty well with it. So I guess it kind of depends on how much time you have and your goals and all of that. So that would be the answer. Anything else you have to add to that?
No, I'm also, like I said, I'm still looking. If anybody knows actually where there's a pretty lively group with Sherlock Holmes fans, so far I haven't found one that seems to be, again, really communicating. So there's issues. I'm having issues, I should say.
I feel like there is probably a whole world of podcasts about Sherlock Holmes. Like, I'll bet when this book comes out that you would be able to do a lot of fun. Like, I just have a gut feeling about this, and so we'll have to look and see what kind of podcasts are available. But I have a really strong feeling that that there's probably a lot of podcasts, Sherlockian podcasts out there in the world.
Yeah, or start my own and hope that the people will come.
Right. Yes, that too. That's really true. All right, back to Free Range Female, talking about start doing a Kickstarter. So they said they didn't really advise against it. I just noticed they've been pretty catty about others have done it. What do they say?
Yeah, that sounds a little bit like the groups that I was talking about. I mean, I'm not sure, and I don't want to judge your friends or anything, but I have met people that look at it like, if you're an author, you're going on there and you're looking for people to pay you, and they have certain attitudes that it's not right.
What's wrong with that? I'm sorry, authors should not have to work for free. So
it's like a little advance. If it goes well, you might be able to get your funds for publishing and maybe a little bit more if you have a really good idea. And publishers pay advances. It's just that this whole group exists because people want to support projects that they can get behind and like, because we all want to read good stuff and have good projects out there. So if you can find them and fund them, you're helping to get the kind of work that you want to see and feel worthy out there. And that's why they exist. Not because, they're there for you to beg money. It's there for them to help promote things they like.
I have, and I will tell you guys, so the book that I have releasing in December is What Seven Figure Authors Do Differently. And I will, because as you guys know, a lot of my book coaching clients are 6 and 7 figure authors, and which is really funny. Like, you know how you put it out in the universe? I was like, I need mentors. Several years ago, I was like, I need, because you hear over and over again, oh, you'll never make a living as an author. Like there's this constant social reinforcement that we should all expect to be broke. And so I sort of just put a call out to the universe. Like, I would like a mentor who is earning 6 or 7 figures from their books. And suddenly I had a dozen, and they do things differently. And one of the things they do is early adoption, which obviously Kickstarter has now been around for a while. That is not, it's been adopted, but they're not weird about, like, they have gotten over whatever weird feelings they have about earning money for their work. And I think that that is something that we all kind of struggle with, especially in the beginning. But I want to tell you why I fund Kickstarters for books. Sometimes it's because I want to get the book early, right? Because they'll do a Kickstarter and you can get it on Kickstarter, and maybe that's the only place available. Sky Warren did her best-selling Author Next Door book course. She did these little great cards. The only place it was going to be available was on Kickstarter, and she did really well with that Kickstarter, and I was definitely one of her customers, even though she was one of my clients, and I knew what was already in the book. It was so valuable. I wanted all those other components. But then a lot of times I will fund new authors because I want to be supportive of people coming up. And it's, so for me to, donate $20 to a Kickstarter, it's not like a significant, like, for me, I don't feel like, oh, I've spent this money. I feel like I'm going to get a book out of this, but I mostly feel like I'm helping authors who are coming up, and I want to do that. So don't deprive me of my opportunity to give you money.
Indie authors also, not all of them want to go through a big corporation, because a big corporation is going to take the rights to your book and hold on it, forever and a day, whether it sells or not. It just might be on somebody's list. And as we talked on this program before, oftentimes they'll print your book and there's no publication, there's nothing behind it.
Yeah.
So this gives you a way to actually not be a slave to the big corporations, and people can do it. People are, gathering in groups to help one another out, which I think is a better way to go if you can make that work, because you still have the rights and you're building an audience, because those people out there that are looking to fund people are a whole different audience beyond your social media. And if they like it, they will talk about it because they've invested. So you have something that's not available in corporations, and
Yeah. Well, and do not underestimate the pull for a lot of people, myself included. Like, I like to be what, like, I heard of it first. So like there's some joy that people take in discovering new artists or new authors, and when the book takes off, you go like, oh, I love that, like, you feel like you're a part of that success. So I know that sometimes, like Kickstarter, because unfortunately people in this country have to use it for things like healthcare and funerals and things like that. And so I get how some people might have that association, but Kickstarter is like a great, like, I've bought so many cool things off Kickstarter that you can't get anywhere else, or special editions of things. Like, don't think of it as like begging for money. I guess when I said Kickstarter with healthcare, I was actually referring to GoFundMe. They're different, and the people who are on Kickstarter want to be involved in new cool things. I mean, that's just it. So help build that fan base, and I don't know. For me, it was I just did one campaign. It was it was an okay campaign. We made some money on it, but it was just a great experience, and it's definitely something that if I had time, I would do again. So I love that. But but I will say this: a lot of my 6 and 7 figure author clients, when they launch their nonfiction books, they do it on Kickstarter. So that's something to keep in mind.
Community, all right, everything. I mean, nobody makes it without a village, and we all need help. So I think it's better to promote a creative community than to not.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah. And Kickstarter really wants creatives. I mean, the Horror Geek, as you guys know, is a big YouTuber, and they have made a real push for YouTubers. And I think I feel like the thing that for the people who support, they're having a different experience, I think, than what maybe you're imagining, right? They're not giving you money because they feel sorry for you. They're giving you money because they think your project is cool. Yeah, and let's not deprive them of that.
Yeah, I'm seeing, comments about scams and things, and scams are everywhere. I mean, you can't avoid that. I've heard things that people have gone on and had sob stories on GoFundMe and made millions of dollars and turned out to be a fraud. And, it's disappointing, but you can't let the few bad apples spoil it either.
Right.
I mean, hopefully they don't get a chance to do it again, but think of all the good things, not just books, but electronics and different things that got funded through things like this that would never have made it to see the world because, big companies just weren't interested in it.
Right. Well, and I look at somebody like the Horror Geek who loves his numbered small press books and there's only 500 of them. He wants one. Yes. And there's some real value in that. Yeah, I mean, I do get that. There are sketchy people on every platform, and I hope that's the case. I mean, all you can do is communicate regularly and deliver what you say you're going to deliver. And if there is, if you've got a delay, people are generally understanding as long as you're able to make good on it. But, try not to promise more than what you can deliver, which we all have had times where you go, oh yeah, I'll do that. And then, and it doesn't, something happens, you get in a car accident or you get sick or whatever. But as long as you're communicating, people are generally pretty understanding.
Yes.
So other good question. Avi says, I'm on Substack and there's a stark difference in engagement between the free and paid tiers. That's interesting. So I have several subscriptions to Substack, folks. And then there are some where I don't subscribe because I always think it's kind of an interesting thing because obviously you want to save your best content for your paid subscribers, but also I always wonder about how easy it is to get people to make the leap from free to paid.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of authors who've done very well with Substack, and I also know some who pretty much use it like their regular newsletter. It is nice, like I said, for growing your subscriber base, and also because if you have 10 or 20,000 people on your list, it can get to be kind of pricey. And so that's kind of a good way to alleviate that and maybe just save your MailerLite or your Kit account for new folks that are coming in through your reader magnets and then have the rest of it on Substack. But to me, that also feels like extra work, which I'm trying to avoid.
I would say the free way until you get something going is probably best. And then once you have an audience or, your books are out there and they're doing well, then offer something to people who just like Kickstarter want to help support you in your endeavors so that you have,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. We got to do another sprint, you guys. It's time to write. Here we go. I had some good questions for when we come back. All right, here we go. Let's do 20 minutes on the clock, starting in 3. All right, we are back. I can't get rid of the video. Hold on. There we go. So how did everybody do on the sprint? Let us know. There we go. How'd you do, Robert?
I did pretty well.
Very nice. Lainey's here. She went. I'm kind of jelly. One of our mutual friends, actually from that same awesome rom-com group I mentioned earlier, did a little webinar on Patreon, and I am so sad that I missed it. Anyway, so we're gonna want to hear all of your awesome insights. Very, very nice. Patreon's been really great for Mike. I do not. Do I have one, but it's not active. Like I literally never do anything with it. So I was really interested to hear what Deanna had to say on this. So maybe you can fill me in later. Free range female says, "Well, that sprint was one long squirrel for me. Watch the tropes on flight. Love it. Saw another video. I want to watch them make coffee. All right, I have that for sure. I definitely am subject to squirrel syndrome on a regular basis. Love, 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 love. Yeah. See, there you go. Thank you for catching us up. I know I was saying that exact same thing that you do a bunch of them. Okay. You know what it's time for, everybody. Dun, dun, dun. I will never not love that. Okay, so today on our exciting episode of Plot Twists and Paychecks, we've got a few interesting notes. Still a lot of indie authors frustrated about being left out essentially of the Anthropic settlement because of the dual requirement that you have both US Copyright Office registration and your ISBN metadata and your ISBN metadata included or specifically registered with an ISBN. And so this is our weekly warning to please go register the copyrights of your books because there are lots more lawsuits coming. And this is a hard lesson for a lot of people, and especially people with small presses who thought that their stuff was, whose contracts say that their publisher is going to register a copyright and then they failed to do that. But just make sure your copyright's registered.
Yeah, there's always loopholes, even with big publishers. So you have to do everything you can to protect yourself. That should be like rule number one before you start out publishing anything.
Yes, that's exactly it. That is exactly it. Baker and Taylor, which is has been they used to be sort of the big library wholesaler. They sort of shrunk in recent years, and in particular during the pandemic, because obviously most of the libraries were shutting down, and so there's another company called ReaderLink, and they wholesale books to places like Target, Walmart, Costco, etc. They were planning to acquire Baker and Taylor back in September. It looked like it was going to go through, but now the deal has fallen through, and Baker and Taylor is shutting down operations by early 2026, which is causing a big disruption for both libraries and publishers. The thing that's important is for indie authors to know is that libraries who previously were getting their distribution through Baker and Taylor are now pivoting exclusively to Ingram and smaller distributors. And that's great for you because Ingram Spark, which is what a lot of indie authors use to distribute their books beyond Amazon, already distributes to some libraries. And so that looks like that's going to happen a lot more. It's kind of like, it makes me sad that Baker and Taylor has gone under, because for a while they were mostly library with some retail, and I just never think it's a good idea to have kind of one company that controls most of everything. Like monopolies are just generally not good for anybody. Yeah. And so, yeah. But speaking of monopolies not being good for everybody or anybody, bookshop.org, which is not a monopoly, has just expanded into ebooks and audiobooks. And if you're not familiar, bookshop.org sort of enables independent bookstores to like they sort of set up the back end so that indie bookstores can sell books, and they are very friendly to indie authors. But what's cool about this is that they have started rolling out ebook and audiobook. They've started rolling out ebook sales in the UK, and they plan to add audiobook support and Kobo integration, which is fantastic. This is a direct move against Amazon. Like, they're doing it, but it is a huge boost for indie bookstores that want digital sales options. And for authors, especially authors who are really not on board with Amazon, it gives them, what might feel like a more ethical route to readers. So love that
competition.
Yeah,
that's another problem with monopolies. Once they get everything and they don't have competition to try hard enough, they just make you, the customer or author, pay for it.
Right. That's exactly right. And bookshop.org is a great little organization. There's all kinds of, if you're not familiar, you do distribute through Ingram Spark, you are already distributing to them, but they have all kinds of cool little features, and really anything that supports indie bookstores is something I am in favor of. I'll just say that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then I think that, and that's it. That's it. The only other thing is that Barnes & Noble unveiled their Book of the Year finalists, 14 finalists for their 2025 Book of the Year award, and the winner should be announced anytime. Actually, I think they've already been announced. I'm pretty sure they have, because I believe I just saw that. And this is great for all those 14 finalists. They are going to get all kinds of holiday merchandising and bookstore placement nationwide. So be sure to pitch your book for next year. Try and make it into the top 14. It's mostly trad published books, but occasionally you'll find some indies in there. So, all right, that is the news for today. Da, 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 da. I love that. One of the things we talked about ReaderLink being this store, they are a distributor. They work with big publishers. I don't know what their deal is with indie publishers, but they distribute into like big box stores. And one of the questions that I had this week from a reader was, how do I get my book into Target and Walmart and Costco? And my answer to him was probably a little bit surprising, because I said, you don't want Target. At this stage, he has one book out, one independently published book.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you probably don't want Target to make a big buy of your book, because he doesn't have a fan base yet. And if Target makes a big buy of that book, let's say they buy several thousand copies to, add a couple in every store, in every Target across the country, right? Feels like the dream. The downside is, if he does not have like the push as far as a fan base to sell through those books, Target will return them back to Ingram, because they weren't going to buy them in the first place unless you had regular trade discount, right? So they're going to return all those books, and you are going to be on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars worth of printing costs. So the lesson, I think, is like, that can be awesome, right? Lucy Score is an indie author who I think ended up having to partner with a publisher, I believe somebody told me, because she, like, Target was selling so many. Like, that's the dream. That's awesome. But she also has a massive fan base that she has built herself. And so you want to make sure that you don't put the cart before the horse. I hate for anybody to go broke on their first book because they miraculously got it into a Target or a Walmart where it didn't sell because it did not have the fan support or marketing support to make it go. So that's my 2 cents. Anybody like totally disagree or kind of disagree with me? I'm curious. I do have a strong opinion.
I think it's good advice, because that's just way too tricky of a thing, and then you're going to end up very disappointed. I mean, it might take off and sell, but that's such a
It
crapshoot.
might, right? And that would be awesome. Then you'd make a whole bunch of money. And Target is a great place to, I mean, they don't, their bookstore, sorry, their bookshelf space shrunk again this year. We talked about that a few weeks ago, but it's great. I mean, it's great if you can get into Target. But for a first time author that doesn't really know what they're doing, to me, that feels like the kiss of death. And I will say that when I worked for the traditional publisher, they're a mid-sized publisher, and we often had those discussions about you like the exact same thing, right? That you want a lot of Barnes and Nobles that think they can really hand sell that book to order it, but you don't necessarily want a national Barnes and Noble buy, because if the booksellers are not hand selling it, then there's a really good chance that you're going to have a crap ton of returns. And that is the math that publishers are constantly dealing with. You know, they know that Patterson's going to sell through, but they don't know if you're going to sell through. And you know what? You don't know that either. And that's the thing. So I typically am like, well, do it. But with that, that's the kind of thing that can like bankrupt a publishing company or a person. So
Yeah, get your book out, and you know, the next step might be the audio book, which we talked about last week or the week before, and how they're doing really well, and even shorter fiction is doing well. I think that's the whole theme of the world or our environment right now, because people's focus seems to be a little bit lacking. Not that it's not there, and not that, you know, everybody is suffering from it, but to some degree, I see a lot of creators going through this kind of focus burnout. Social media is kind of the key. And I see like artists, they may publish like 10 pieces of artwork and one thing that rants about, you know, the problems of the world, and that's what the algorithm picks up and carries forward, because that's what's getting all the attention. So we're bombarded with it. And when you're thinking about all that stuff, it forms a layer between, you know, the top of your mind and the focus or the alpha state that you get in the creative zone, or, you know, even reading. And if you're reading and you're thinking, you're distracted because it pulls you back with all these thoughts and things that's going through your head that you're hit with all the time. So you need those breaks. And I think you need to come at your readers in a way that, yes, maybe your first book shouldn't be 1,000 pages. Maybe it should be a little bit shorter. Get their attention first. Don't write for the market, but sometimes I think you need to consider your audience and write for the times. And right now, shorter fiction, audiobooks, way to go.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. Well, so I see that. So I'm right now seeing like a ton of movement with shorter books, but also with much longer books. And I don't know if that, yeah. And I don't know, right? For a lot, like authors that I know have been getting their word counts down. Like for my type of book, typically it was 75,000 words, and authors are getting their books like down to 60. So it's a very tightly plotted book. But I'm now, and I don't know if this is because Kindle Unlimited obviously like pays you based on the page reads. And so I don't know if authors are sort of flipping that strategy, thinking if I can get you halfway in the book and get you to keep on going, I'm going to make more money on this than more books with shorter page counts or word counts. I'm sort of taking like a wait and see sort of attitude with this, because it's fascinating to me that both of those things are happening. Shorter books and much longer books are like both kind of taking off right now, whereas the right down the middle word count is less so. So
that's interesting. I wonder what the psychology is behind that, unless just getting lost in a world that you like and you want to stay there for longer is really appealing to people. I mean, sometimes it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my last book, Cold Feet, was I think the longest book I've ever written, and it came in over 100,000 words. And I kept going in trying to cut stuff out, but I was like, oh, I don't want to cut that. That's so sweet. Oh, I don't want to cut. And then I thought, like, I'm just going to leave it. And I have not been dinged in reviews at all about the book being too long, but I have gotten a lot of girls over like this kind of slow burn. And so I'm going like, I'm sort of tentatively like, okay, it seems like it's working. And the only reason it's so long is because I made multiple attempts to cut stuff out and I just couldn't do it. So anyway,
Yeah, I guess you think
I mean, I
about
cut some out, but I just couldn't cut as much out.
look how many people get invested in the world of Harry Potter and certain series like that, or even
Right.
TV shows. I
Right.
know if Georgie and I have a lousy day or we're just, tired, we'll often turn to The Office because that's our go-to show when we're having a bad
Right.
day. So we return to those things. It's familiar in a world that brings us some kind of enjoyment.
Yeah. I can do that with old 30 Rock. Like literally, you can plot me into any 30 Rock episode, and I feel like because we've seen it so many times, and it's right. So we know all the context, so I could watch any random episode, and like it just sort of takes you out of all the craziness in the world.
It's
All right,
comforting, and
it is.
some worlds just appeal to us, and some shows are just really well done, and you don't mind staying in that world. So books are
Yeah.
the same way. I guess that's a good clue to do a good job on your world building and make it enjoyable and interesting for the reader.
True. True. Absolutely. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do another sprint. We've got 20 more minutes left, so let's make it count. All right, there we go. Okay, so we are going to do a 20-minute sprint. I saw we have another question from Alexis. Hello, we're super glad to talk to you. We're going to answer your question. Oh, no, you don't have a question. Just introducing yourself. Hi, Alexis. We're super excited to meet you. New writer starting with 8K short romance stories in a planned series that exists within a contemporary universe. Love it. Very nice job.
It's all the patterns we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, welcome. We are super, super glad to see you. And we are doing our last writing sprint of the day. So let's make it count, everybody. Let me go ahead and get this thing rolling. All right. Big sprint, big finish. Here we go. Starting in 3, Very nice. Very nice. How'd everybody do on that very last sprint of the day?
I did well. I didn't finish the complete chapter, but it's going pretty well.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Elizabeth says, great being here with you all. Must run to a Zoom call. Thanks for all the inspiration today. Aw, thank you. Super glad you were here today. So, yeah, I was really, really productive. So I'm super excited about that. Look at that. Tendo Queen says, yes, I got so many words. It finally came out. Yay. So glad. Alexis got 359 today. Yay. Let me see what my grand total is for the day because I did not. Hold on. Oh, all right. That's not too bad. 1,059 today. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
Very, very not total, not just for like for all the sprints, not just the last one. Guys, do you guys remember when Carol would join us? Carol Brown would join us. She is so speedy, and we would have like a 20-minute sprint, and that girl would write like 800 words.
Yeah, sometimes 900.
Yeah, I know. Makes you like, okay, here are my 212 words. So, oh goodness gracious, love that. All right, so before we go, let's go ahead and do our outros. But for those of you who are new, we are here every Wednesday, same time, same place, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. Robert, before we go, tell our fine friends here a little about you and your awesome channel.
My channel is The Story Detective, where I take various forms of storytelling and place them under my Sherlockian lens and break down the craft in order to separate the fact from fiction in fiction writing and present the results to the reader, or to the viewer rather, in hopes of making your journey easier.
Very, very nice. Look at Alexis, 1386 for the day. Nice. Very nice. Free range female got 541 total, even though I didn't write during one. A great start to the day. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you guys are so awesome. Before we go, I'm Lisa Daly. I write nonfiction writing advice and contemporary romance. And on my channel, we talk about how to write a book you're super proud of and get it published. So thanks so much for being here, everybody. We love you, and we will see you next week.
Take care, everybody. Keep those keyboards clacking.